Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so happy you are here with us today. I'm Helen Renevik and I'm joined by wonderful Katarina. And today we are going to explore a question that touches every part of our life or our lives because we are all of us. So we ask this question: what is driving your purpose? Many of us work hard, we stay busy, and we push forward. Yet something inside us feels unclear. And Katarina and I have spoken over a few weeks, and we believe that purpose is not found through pressure. It's found when we slow down enough and listen to what truly moves us from within. So, welcome, Katarina.
Thank you, Helene. Great to be here again. And yes, driving purpose is paramount in my life. I honestly have to say that in 20 years, I haven't had one boring day. I
Wow.
can honestly claim that.
In 25 years.
Well, it's almost 25 years now. Yes, yes. Um,
Tell us a little bit, how was it before that then? Because I
Before
didn't.
that, I felt bored. I felt lost. I felt that I didn't have a purpose, even though I wasn't, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I just knew that what I was doing as a teacher and even as a successful psychotherapist wasn't working. And so I just kept looking and looking and looking until I found I was an entrepreneur. And then I found out what kind of entrepreneur I was when I found my three core values.
And we have spoken about them in, I
In
think,
another
two
podcast.
weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. We will link the that into here so you can see how you can find your core values. So let's start with our questions that we have. And the first one we wanted to ask is, what truly drives our purpose beneath the roles we play? Because sometimes maybe we have roles we play. Do we?
I think most of us do, because we're taken through the educational system and we're told to basically sit down and be quiet and listen to me, and you've got a test on Friday. And our innate brilliance is not brought out. So we're given a role by cultural conditioning. So we leave school successfully or not successfully. We've passed our exams, we haven't passed exams, we go to university, but then we take on another role. But is it us? Is it really our unique, authentic role? Or is it something that's been imposed on us, or something that we thought, well, I can become a teacher, or I can become this, or I can become that?
We have one, Fadi, he's here listening, and he said, we all face this busy, busy. And it's really true.
Yes, busy, 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 because that's how we're programmed. But unless you find your authentic identity and your driving purpose, you are not going to be fulfilled. And and most small businesses fail, for example, in the first 5 years. Why? Because it's not about their driving purpose. They don't have a driving purpose, and they're bored. And there's a lot of, they've got to take care of the systems and the emails and their customers and all this stuff, and they get bored with that and they stop.
Mm.
So Tony Robbins says it's lack of resourcefulness. I agree with that, but I think it's people who are not purpose driven, who don't know their unique, authentic identity. So yes, I
Maybe
agree.
they are looking outside, whereas, me, who is Helen? I can't find it outside. I have to find it here inside of me.
It's within.
Yeah.
All the answers that we've ever wanted in our lives are actually within ourselves.
Mm. And I often see that purpose, it lives in the small moments of honesty inside of us. The moment we stop trying to be who we think we should be, and that is maybe coming from the outside,
Yeah.
and instead listen to what feels true. And that's quite simple. And it makes you alive.
Yes. Yes. It gives you energy, and if you don't have energy, you can't run a business. So
Mm.
so it 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 it's when you have your authentic identity, you're aligned with your three core values, then you can find your driving purpose, and then you become unstoppable. No matter how tough life gets or business gets, you become unstoppable, and that's a wonderful way of being.
Yeah. And we were talking, you and I, we have a little bit different, because how can we recognize purpose in our body before our mind understands it? So we talked a little bit about this earlier. Before the mind creates a story, the body gives a truth, and you can call these moments, or, like purpose cues. And I usually call it's like a clarity marker. Both they point to the same thing in the end of the day. It's that quiet inner signal that knows before we analyze things, because most of the time we analyze this. But Katarina, how do you explain this to your clients?
Well, my clients have all the answers to their lives, but many of them have not found their driving purpose. And they say to me, well, Katerina, how can you say that in 4 hours you can find the answers to my life when I've looked for these answers for 50 years sometimes? And I say, well, I have the questions. I have the questions that are going to reveal the answers to you. And once you answer those questions, and they stack, once we find your identity, we find your reinvented sabotage strategy, we find your skills, what your we find your habit that you you can completely reverse, and then we find your driving purpose, and it all feels right. It all feels, you feel it in the body.
Mm,
We had a conversation about body, mind, soul, spirit. I work with the mind first, and the soul and the spirit are aligned with that. All of my questions all the way through that, it's not woo woo, it's not crazy, because bottom line is that your soul decides your driving purpose. Nobody else does. Your soul will. And when your soul is on fire and you find your driving purpose, it will feel so peaceful in your body.
mm,
And we talked about truth. Truth is very subtle. Truth is almost silent,
mm,
but you can feel it in your
mm,
body. You can feel it. So
mm.
my
You
clients
feel
are,
that little lift, and it's kind of
yes,
a softening. And I love the word ease, because it's not easy, but you feel, when you feel ease, joy and ease, you feel like, when this it when you don't feel tight or heavy or contracted, because that is not ease, that's the opposite. And then you really know that your body is telling you this doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right to us.
yeah,
And that's what I believe, that's where purpose lives, in
yeah,
the honest signal we feel before I feel before the words arrive.
yes, absolutely. I mean, it's unmistakable. Fadi Ramsey says body always gives markers. So your body does not lie to you. Your soul does not lie to you. Your spirit does not lie to you. People around you can lie to you.
Mm,
Why? And maybe they'll tell you, well, don't go into this business venture. It doesn't make any sense. It's too much of a risk.
mm,
But there is a certain amount of risk in life. Now, I'm not saying take huge risks, take calculated risks that take you out of your comfort zone,
Yes.
because you will slowly die in your comfort zone.
Mm.
But if
And
you have
nothing
radical,
really happens, nothing change if we don't do something different, because then it stays the same. And I think every time, I mean, imagine a little baby when they start to walk. I mean, they will fall all the time until
yeah,
eventually it becomes a
yeah.
normal thing.
And
The
it's no
same
big
way,
deal for a baby. They don't see it as failure. They don't see it as, oops, as I did something wrong. They just, they may even laugh, but they
mm,
just get up and walk
mm.
again.
And the same when we learn to bicycle. I mean, maybe first you go on a tricycle, and then you have maybe two wheels and the support wheels, and then you take those off. And eventually, that's also a risk. Maybe we don't see it as a huge financial risk, but it's still a risk. The child could fall. That is a huge risk. But we can always take precaution and take small steps all the time.
Yes. And
So,
for those who are listening, please say in the chat if you think you're in your comfort zone, or if you think you're out of it. And if you're out of it, congratulations.
yeah. So, what help us to stay aligned with our purpose in our daily life? And, you know, again, like we said, what practices help people to stay connected to what is true for them each day? What do you say, Katarina?
Well, when you've found your success blueprint, when you know who you are, when you know what you're up to, when you've got your compelling vision, your three goals, then nobody has to tell you, like, you need to get up early or you need to do these emails. You just do it. Why? Because you're purpose driven. Because it makes sense to you, because you're impacting other people's lives. So everything starts to flow. And you talked about ease. Yes, ease, when we're aligned with our core values, when we're aligned with spirit, we're aligned with our soul, we're aligned with our vision, we're aligned with our true purpose and our authentic identity, everything feels, not everything, perhaps, most things feel very easy.
Hmm.
And you attract people who are like-minded as well, and then you can collaborate with them and you can work globally, and they will speak the same language as you do.
You
The
know,
language
it's
too.
it's something interesting because we are using the word aligned a lot. So aligned for me is like in our body, we are built with our spine, and it's aligned with everything, all the nerves. I go every week, I go for adjustment to a chiropractor, and everything is connected, from the spine. I mean, the spine is so important for us, and it's aligned with all the nerves out to the organs. It's I don't know, how do people think? I like to think in pictures. So when I hear the word aligned, yes, because our thought, feelings, and emotions, they are also aligned to, not to something outside, but to our soul. Our soul is not just this body, it's everything. So they all work together.
Yeah, or they should do. But for
Yeah, they don't.
many people say, "Well, I don't believe in God, and I don't believe that we have a soul, and I don't believe that we have a spirit. I'm just a body, and I'm just going to go do work, pay my taxes, and eventually I'm going to die." Well, that's their truth. There's nothing wrong with that. But
No.
are they going to find their driving purpose? Probably not, because they're in denial of what is. For example, the universe is supremely intelligent. And if we open up our brains and we open up our minds, we can be aligned with the universe. And the universe is then aligned with us. That is power.
Can I ask you a question that is not on what we had?
Absolutely.
Because maybe some people sit here and some people think, okay, when you have your own business, you have to know your purpose.
Mm.
Although I always say, even if you are not having your own business, you work somewhere else for another company, but you are your business. This body is your business. So, can you have a purpose, or should you have a purpose? I don't like the word should, but what is your purpose if, like you said, if you just work? I just need to, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need to get up, you need to go to the office, and, you need to be there for 8 hours, do your work, and come home so you can support your family and take care of them. And that is not an easy thing. So, you know, do you have a purpose? Or, do people think about having a purpose? Or does that only apply to people who have their own business?
That's a very good question. And most people are in the category of I'm going to get a job, I'm going to work, and I'm going to feed my family. And that's my purpose. And that's a great purpose because your family need to survive and your children need to go to school
Mm.
and preferably have the best kind of education. So that is your purpose. However, are you purpose driven at work? Probably not, because actually you're serving somebody else's purpose, somebody else's vision. And you may be aligned with that. You may not be. And I'm not saying everybody should leave corporate, find their blueprint, and have an entrepreneurial business. I think that's the way we are going to go in the future. However, if you are aligned with the core values of your company, with their purpose,
Core values of the company,
the
that is
company, yes,
important.
the mission statement,
Mm.
you can actually, I mean, you need to know their mission statement. If you don't know it, my question is, why are you working for them?
Yeah,
You
but
know,
most people don't look at that.
no, but I would say ask that.
Mm.
Find out that even before your first interview, find your mission statement and see if you're aligned with that. Because if you're going to be working for a company for 5 years, 10 years, or longer, the more you're aligned with their mission and their purpose, the better you're going to feel, the more energy you're going to have, the more enthusiasm you're going to have. If you're not aligned, your energy is going to go down. You're going to dread Mondays and you're going to ask yourself, what am I doing?
Mm.
Why am I working at this place that is not aligned with my core values?
And that's why we have been talking before, how important it is to know your values. I mean, I've been talking this week about this topic, about your purpose. So for me, start, and I didn't know it all before either. I learned that later on because I didn't really define my core values even when I was working in corporate.
Mm.
But it starts when I listen, and I notice how my body responds before I speak or decide. And it's I ask one quiet question. Does this honor my values? Because if they don't honor my values, then am I really on the right? And I can, pivot all the time. Okay, I go here and there, and it's small steps and it's small pauses, those small moments of inner honesty. Honesty, obviously, as you can hear, is my
And awareness. Yes.
yes, but honesty is my core value.
Yes.
So, that's why I can only speak from myself. And that's how alignment become a way for me to live. And, we can sit here and speak because your and my values, that's what we are living from now. We didn't know. And, I do know that honesty is one that we connected with.
Yes, yeah. Truth is one of my core values, so that's why you and I are aligned.
Yes, yes.
And it's, you know, you've gone through a situation where you were extremely successful in corporate, right? But at one point, you realized this isn't for me. This isn't actually serving, it's not serving your spirit, your soul, your mind. Is that correct?
It's correct, yes.
Yeah. And
Although I always lived, and now I know, because trust is one of my core values too. And that was something that I was brought up with from my mother too. And let's see, we like when, as per my view, purpose and business both are different. Purpose is something which answer why you're here on earth. You can only find it when you are aligned with universe, and that's actually what thank you, Navi,
now,
Navi,
yes,
yes, thank you
good,
for that. And that's what
beautiful.
you were talking about before.
Yes, absolutely. However, I would say, Navdeep, that you can actually create a business that is actually aligned with your soul purpose. So you think they're different. If you're in business, for example, I'm not talking about you personally, Navdeep, but if somebody is in business to make money, we're not here on this earth to make money. You know, it might seem very strange, but we are not. And if you look at if you talk to billionaires, I talk to millionaires even, many of them are not happy. And if you're not happy, it's a sign that you're not following your driving purpose. You're not aligned. You've made money, and then you turn around and say, well, big deal. So what? Right? So if we can, and I think it's well, I live that. If we can align our purpose and our business together, then we truly thrive. If we do it separately, if we have a purpose and a business, that's possible too. But the thing is, we will get very bored. We will give up on the business and go for our purpose every time. Why? Because that's how we are as human beings.
Mm. And there are people that maybe have no money, but they have a purpose in life. And because, money can go, money can come, you can, it
Yeah,
goes up and down, and you can make lots of money, you can lose lots of money, but still, if your purpose is there and it's bigger than that, that's when you like, and I, like you thrive. Because again, you can get knocked over and lose your health. I mean, what do you have then? All the money in the world might not even be able to, fix if you don't have your health.
that's exactly it. And that's how a lot of people reach burnout because they've pushed and pushed and pushed themselves to go to work to to in an environment that they're not happy with, they're not aligned with, and finally they burn out because they've pushed themselves too far, and then they've got to recover from burnout. And burnout forces you to be still and
Yeah.
listen. But it could
But a
take.
lot of people, you get signs before burnout. And
Oh,
that's
you do, you
And
do. But
that's
if
what
you
I try
know,
to inform people, if you have burnout, because there is actually a symptom. You can go to a doctor and a doctor will diagnose you with burnout. I had a person speaking to me, is it really? Yes. And then it's gone so far, and that's really sad that in our society or in the world that people have to go so far, because then they haven't listened. The body will give small, signs. Maybe,
Yes.
you have an ache here, or you have this, or a rash or something. Then you need to ask, what is happening? Because otherwise, if you have burnout, it can take years sometimes to come back, and that's very costly. And that's why I always speak with people who run at the top of an organization. Look after your people. Don't let them go so far as they burn out.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, purpose is not something we chase, it's something we uncover by listening to ourselves with the softness and curiosity. Because that's another of my core values, be curious. So, if today opens something for you, a thought, a feeling, or a sense of clarity, trust that, because this is the work that both of us support. And I do that inside my program, The Power of No Without Guilt. It helps you stand in your truth and make decisions that honor your values and your inner world. And Darina, she can, also she works in a different way with her blueprint, also with that. So if you are want to, explore this further, please contact us. Write down in the comments and let's have a conversation. Now I leave you so I can drink some water.
I love what you said about standing in your truth. That is so powerful, because if we don't stand in our truth, if we're actually standing in somebody else's truth, it feels like you're standing in somebody else's puddle, But if you're standing in your truth, you are powerful. You're standing in your authentic self. You're, you know, Oprah. What I found interesting about Oprah Winfrey is she didn't know she had a brand because she already was standing in her truth and living
She
her.
is her brand.
Sorry?
She is her brand.
She is her brand. But people said, "Well, you have an amazing brand, Oprah." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean brand? I don't have a brand." Because she already knew who she was and what she was up to. And she was following her core values and her vision. And she still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your closing words before we close off today?
My closing words is life is a spiritual game. So play the game, and when you are aligned with your driving purpose, the game will get much bigger. It will not be about getting a salary. It will be about how you are becoming. Are you becoming this extraordinary being you've always wanted to be? So, if you're aligned with your driving purpose and you're standing in your truth, then you grow to be the extraordinary being you always wanted to be. So, if that's who you are now, please put that in the chat or in the comment box.
Thank you so much for being here today. And we wish you a week filled with clarity. I mean, we are coming to the end, and ease and alignment. And please drop your comments below and let's continue this conversation, because we are all together here and I think we can all learn from each other. I learned so much from Katarina. I mean, she's a woman that has so much wisdom, has lived a life, and I love that. I love that I get to learn from you every week.
Thank you, Helen. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations because I feel free with you. I feel free to be myself completely.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
We are all, individuals, and we should be who we are.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, and look forward to see you next week. Or next week, I'm actually traveling, so it will be the week after.
Yes.
But we will still continue in the comments and enjoy and share